Hi folks, Yehuda here. As you know, my first ever vlog or podcast, or plog as it's been called by my good friend Jack, was called TNT, Trapped and Truthful. And it was about how I kind of had this trapped identity that I couldn't tell anyone about, but that through the internet I could be truthful about it. Now the vlog, or plog as it's been called, has now been called Becoming Yehuda, and this is its 1 year on plogcast. So Jack, take it away.
Jack here, back just over a year later, I think, to see how Yehuda has become Yehuda. And, obviously, last year it was, like you just said, it was trapped and truthful. Because that was sort of the end of being trapped, really, that podcast, because it was a coming out, if you will, to be public with your faith and what you're changing, what's going on in your life. And do you just want to tell us a bit about, for maybe people who didn't hear the first one, where you were then, what was going on?
Where I was at that time was I had decided to take a leap of faith and become Jewish. And I'd taken a hiatus from radio for 3 years. I'd been so fearful. I hadn't even told my colleagues at Notorious about it. Notorious being the station that I worked at. And then I recorded the podcast, released it on the official station website and on the official Facebook and Twitter. And also I had just started my conversion course at that point. So, it was kind of a weird place. And I say leap of faith because it is quite literally a leap. If you can imagine the feeling of going to somewhere unknown or doing something where you do not know the full outcome of it, that's exactly how I felt.
Right. So that's where you were.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you feel you've got to now? What's changed in the last year?
Well, I think regarding the leap,
how did it go?
I'm very near to the landing.
Still not landed.
Still not landed. Still in term 2 out of 3 terms.
And this is for the not conversation course.
Conversion course. I don't need a conversation course. I'm a radio presenter. I'm quite apt at that.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in the middle of the conversion course, but I feel that I'm not in the middle of the development of who I am. I'm just at the end of the development of who I am, but I'm in the middle of the conversion course. Strange as it sounds.
I know you've touched on it a bit in what you've said, but what kind of things have you had to overcome to get to that stage from where you were last year?
It was kind of a whirlwind of a process, because it's like, in terms of my art as an artist and as a DJ and as a radio presenter, I thought, how am I going to make this new persona fit with everything I've done so far? And then I realised, hold on, I'm a different person. So no matter what I do, my art will still be different to the stuff that I produced way back in 2006 or 2008. Yeah. So no matter where I was in the conversion process, I was still going to be a different person as an artist. Art never stays the same, and nor should it. The other thing that I've had to work through is society's perceptions. And, at the start, it was tough, because I remember when I started losing friends because of this, because I had somebody who used to help me out who was an atheist, and fair enough, if people want to be atheists, that's fine. but it was, how can you be like this? Are you crazy? What is wrong with you? And it appears this person just could not understand why a person in my position would do what they did. So even though it's perfectly logical to me, it was completely illogical to them.
His friend then, that you say sort of fell out with you over it, what did you learn? Did you take anything away from that actually helped you? Or was that just something that you just had to get over and forget about?
The one thing that I did learn is that people can be themselves without there having to be a major fallout over it, as I've since learnt, because I've met wonderful people from all backgrounds. But what I learned is you will get good and bad in every group, and that was just one of the things that I had to face. Although for somebody to become so involved in another person's identity, I don't think that's on at all. When they're trying to figure themselves out and you're trying to tell them what they should be, that's completely out of order.
So that's one example, right, of somebody being an obstacle. And when I asked about things that you've had to overcome, you said society's outlook, society's opinion. But obviously that's an individual. So overall, have you been pleasantly surprised by how society's viewed you, or has it been shocked? Has it been worse than you thought it would be?
In some respects it's been worse, and in some respects it has completely surprised me. You know, and this might not be the answer you were expecting, but on either side it has totally surprised me, because where I thought I was going to get a lot of criticism, I haven't. People have been fine. And ironically, the place where I thought I'd get the least amount of criticism, I got the most. Well, not criticism, but overt prejudice, essentially. So I've found that in a small town, people are largely okay with it. It's only in the major cities that I've really encountered a problem. I have my suspicions as to why that is, but it really shocked me that there's only one time that being Jewish in a small town was a problem. And I have to say this, and I know it's a very divisive issue, but I have to say this.
Is this the Brexit one?
Yes. When the Brexit results were announced, and I remember the day after going down my street and just feeling foreign. And it was strange. You know, I was born to English parents, not Jewish. And, you know, they've never really been that religious.
You lived around here all your life, haven't you?
Yeah. And to suddenly go down your own street and feel foreign, feel different, that's hard. That's difficult. I mean, I've been asked questions such as, where are you from? And by that, I don't just mean which neighbourhood. They want to know where I'm really from.
What do you tell them?
I tell them England. I've also been told over the internet by trolls to go back to my own country, which is very ironic.
Laughable, really.
But it really does make you think, if I may be so bold, when I get messages saying, and I'm going to bleep myself here, when I'm told to F off back to my own country, I feel like asking, well, just where do I, in your parlance, F off to?
After overcoming those challenges, what would be next for you then?
What would be next for me? Well, what would be next for me as a DJ would be getting on a station, presenting, and essentially doing what I'm doing now. Just talking to all you lovely people out there and trying to make as good a show as possible. And it's kind of weird because when you're a radio presenter, the show becomes your life, or the life becomes your show, in that you are trying to find entertaining tidbits just to, one, fill the programme with, and two, to try and gain some inspiration.
Well, especially with a podcast like this, it's literally your life, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
On the subject of a podcast like this, are you going to do more podcasts, do you think, or in the near future? Or
indeed I will, because
I'll have to wait another year.
I'll be documenting my journey.
Okay, and what about video blogs? Are you still doing those?
I've kind of tended to pull back from those because I'm thinking by doing this podcast, I'm preparing myself for work as a radio DJ. Doing video blogs is all fine and good, but there's so many other things to consider. Whereas I could be bleary-eyed recovering from a hangover, and as long as I can make sure that the voice sounds okay, you'll never even know it.
Are you recovering from a hangover?
Nope.
He's not.
But then again, if I were, you wouldn't know.
He doesn't look very bleary-eyed. That's me telling the listeners there.
Yeah, before he goes to his AA meeting. Just joking there. Right. So, this has been the Becoming Yehuda podcast. And, yeah, essentially, this is kind of how things have gone from last year. I was kind of in a bit of a whirlwind because I was wondering kind of who I wanted to be, how I was going to match that up as an artist, and now kind of put the jigsaw puzzles together now, and I'm just learning my craft and enjoying it as it goes on and documenting my journey as well. So I'm essentially killing two birds with one stone through this podcast. Documenting my journey and mastering my craft. Okay, catch you later. I've been Yehuda.
I've been Jack.
Bye.
Goodbye.